Hey guys, Dav here, back today with another Lord highlight. Today looking at the Chaos Sorcerer Lord on a dragon. Definitely a very underrated Lord choice. Chaos, usually you think of Big Bird, Kolek, even Archaon perhaps, maybe even a wild Sigvald pick. But they do indeed have this dragon here, which you can mount with the Lord, which is just kind of bad to be honest, or the Sorcerer Lord, which is pretty decent. You can also take a Manticore mount, which is nice, good mount option, and just in general you get some nice Lords of Magic. Shadows is one in particular that you don't have a legendary Lord, you don't, for Shadows and Death both, so taking that on a Dragon caster is pretty good. Of course, Chaos Dragon does do fire damage, so it synergizes directly with Lore of Fire. But here we've got Lore of Shadows up against the Dwarfs. Taking a look at the rest of the build as it kicks off that Penumbral Pendulum there, we've got 3 Armored Chaos Trolls, very interesting choice up front, some Chaos Marauders. Warriors with great weapons out to the flanks. Here for the Dwarfs, Gromriddle and Felix leading the way. We've got Cannon, and some Fire Drakes hidden in the woods. Oh, there's a Manticore here as well, Wild Manticore. Some Longbeards hidden in the woods. I believe there's a couple Iron Breakers as well, so pretty deep build. And I don't know if he anticipated the Troll pick, but the Fire Drakes you would think, plus the Blasting Charges would be okay. And the Blasting Charges actually do okay. But because these Chaos Trolls have armor, it actually saves them a bit. They're not going to lose too much. They do get routed here, but only one model down. They'll definitely be back. And, the non-armored Chaos Trolls, I think, would have got completely wrecked there by that fire damage. Instead, the Fire Drakes turn to the back line, and I'm not the biggest fan of Fire Drakes in a lot of situations. I think most situations you want the Trollhammer Torpedoes. Like here, you can see they actually detonate one of the cannon models on accident. And they're doing quite a bit of friendly fire to that cannon crew and to the Longbeards that are there. They just have a hard time hitting single entities very consistently. Speaking of single entities, the dragon itself dies down. Man, super cool color scheme on this thing too. It's like got this black color, all the horns and spikes and stuff, the 2 heads. Quite interesting. Another Penumbral Pendulum going to be dropped here. And Shadows, you might think Dwarfs, magic resistance. It's not great to use AoE damage spells against them, but Penumbral Pendulum is one of those spells that very cost effective, good amount of armor-piercing damage, especially if you overcast it. Effective even against Dwarfs. A nice volley of charges from these miners here. Dwarf player definitely scrapping. He's got these Iron Breakers coming in. The Warriors so far have cleaned up a few kills out on the flanks. Cleaned up some miners and stuff over here. Another Manticore? I just completely missed the second Manticore here. Totally possible, yep. Okay. Yeah, makes sense then. I reckon these Dwarf Warriors that had been hidden here in the woods also got some great weapons here protecting the cannon. Just kind of hanging back for now, waiting to see what targets drop down. This Manticore eventually gets enraged and kind of loses out to these Longbeards fighting in sustained combat. To be expected. I mean, Manticores are very, very good, but they don't have the best sustained combat stats, but does set up a beautiful breath attack from the dragon, and that's obviously a benefit of a dragon. As far as like how the Chaos Dragon compares to other dragons, we can compare that in the end, but the fire damage in particular is a really nice direct synergy. The breath attack also deals fire damage, so there's a funny synergy where you can actually increase your missile damage slightly with Flaming Sword Ruin, which would give you fire damage anyway, and Kindle Flame actually affects that, and your breath attack also. Fun fact, you can do it for Dark Elves too on Black Dragons, and it will actually make the breath attack deal fire damage because it counts as a missile attack. And anyway, there's some fun interactions there. Here though, just with the raw Lore of Shadows, only Penumbral Pendulum and the Arcane Conduit's pretty cheap kit, honestly, up on the dragon. We'll have to take a look at cost after that, but very minimalist there. Don't need a lot else from Lore of Shadows, just that raw damage. But it's going to be close here in the end. These 2 Manticores managed to dive down, get that cannon. Gromriddle has no fear, has been popped, so everything is currently unbreakable, which is really nice. Another Pendulum going to be dropped here. Do a little bit to those Chaos Warriors, but any damage you can do to these Iron Breakers, just massive defensive unit. You can see there, just formed into a circle, getting beaten by trolls. They're fighting Chaos Warriors, still holding out. Oh, but here comes the dragon. And, Longbeards are immune to psychology. Other Dwarf units are not, like these Miners and the Dwarf Warriors and other things, so Oh, these are actually Ironbreakers, though, not Longbeards. And Ironbreakers are actually not immune to Psychology, I believe, baseline. I want to check. Maybe the ROR is. I forget, but I know I did an episode about them already. So yeah, they could potentially get terrified away here by the dragon. They do have massive leadership, so it's pretty hard for them to get terrified, but it can happen. Here, this Manticore still fighting with these great weapons in the back, kind of in the shadows of the jungle here. Interesting aesthetic. These warriors aren't long for this world. They're kind of in a weird situation. Although maybe, again, if the terror starts to kick in for like the dwarf warriors and the miners here, that will affect the Longbeards. You can see are immune to Psychology. They also provide Encourage, so a nice little like AoE leadership buff from where the lords are not. Felix and Grombrindle fighting over here, slaying some trolls and some chaos warriors, having a grand adventure. Trolls are eventually going to rout. Let's check in to see what kind of damage they got done. 21 kills there, not too bad. I'm not sure where the other units got off to, but providing some nice disruption and shock damage. Another beautiful breath attack there from the dragon. Yeah, it's been very, interesting. This, yeah, this Chaos Dragon, it's been able to stay pretty healthy and not get too compromised. I mean, granted, there weren't like a lot of Slayers. There's really just like the cannon and not too many missile units all around. Like I said, this Iron Drake would be much better served to be a Trollhammer torpedo. A lot of resources are wrapped up into Grombrindle and Felix, and right now, because they're so healthy and the rest of the Chaos Force is getting pretty tattered, the balance of power is really not looking great. A lot of these Chaos Warriors are pretty low, and a few bad shots from the cannon on like the Lord especially. On that dragon, it is a pretty decently big target. Could be the end, but there's nothing stopping exactly this from happening. Big old pupper gets a nice ground charge, blows up a cannon, and a few Dawi cannon crewmen. It's just eyeing up the other one. There we go. Nice pounce. It's like my cat. Gotta size it up, do a little butt wiggle, and then pounce. Oh yeah, adorable. Manticores are terrifying and adorable. But yeah, speaking of terror, kicks in here for these Dwarf Warriors, the other Dwarf Warriors as well. So now, Chaos Player's just going to push and push all of this off the side here. And exactly what he should do. Just chase all of these units off. Grombrindle has no fear. Him and Felix are going to stand in the forest here and try and rally what last troops they can together. So we're going to fast forward through this phase a little bit. As you can see, great job here. Chaos Warrior just kind of, Chaos Player just kind of fanning out. And, yeah. Chasing all these dwarfs off. Dwarfs, you really don't want to let them come back from rout if you can, because they are so hard to rout in the first place. And they're pretty slow too, so you can chase them off with even your own infantry units. Definitely something you want to do as much as you can. You can see like these Longbeards are going to come back and have to fight something. The Marauders come in and just don't cut the mustard. Maybe they will, actually. You know what? I'm talking about these Marauders. They actually won on their own without the Manticore, really. Here comes the final engagement. Grombrindle, Felix, sizing up their opponent. It's a little bit of a scary situation. Just the Manticore and the Dragon alone in sustained combat would probably lose to these two. It's hard to say. The thing is, though, they don't have a lot of HP. The Dragon can come in and get a few really strong charge animations. Like right there. Oh man, really nice hit and run. Just kills a single one of those Iron Drakes. Immediately ping-pongs over to this Ironbreaker unit. And a little bit of fire just touches the belly of the beast. I believe there's one more breath attack. Yep, here it comes. Just eliminates this unit of Ironbreakers. That's going to make all of these actual units once to rout. The two heroes are still healthy. Flying monsters land, chase them off, and then the infantry all bum rush in to surround the heroes. If he can get them separated as well, like Grombrindle and Felix, you see now how they're a little bit separated. Felix is surrounded. Grombrindle trying to fight the dragon, but of course he is just a foot lord, so the dragon can just run away and get back up in the air. And now, yeah, despite him being quite healthy. Felix gets terrified here. Karagul active, but Gromriddle has no fear has already been used, so unfortunately he's just going to get terrified and run away. He does come back very briefly, only to get nommed by a dragon. Yeah, isn't Karagul like a dragon-slaying sword or something? Somehow this seems wrong, but Gromriddle's still holding out, just putting a beat down on this Manticore, so it's still not, I mean, some bad RNG here for Chaos or the Dwarfs on either side could swing it. Or good RNG, I guess, depending on your perspective. But Felix gets nommed. Leadership really can't hold up to this, and the Chaos Dragon does have significant weapon strength. 520 weapon strength with 45 charge bonus. Very significant. And the Manticore manages to avoid getting completely pounded into the ground by Gromriddle. I think he's getting distracted, perhaps. His attacks, yeah, it looks like that splash attack went into, like, the Chaos Warriors. So the Manticore is not really being focused here. And as a result, it's getting little consistent chip damage. And then here comes the Dragon to do the double team. And that'll be it for poor Gromriddle. Do the balance power now starts to swing very significantly. And granted, gonna pop that Foe Seeker, do whatever he can, but he's just, yeah, when you're surrounded by multiple single entities like this, you're just a lonely Footlord. I mean, he is getting attacks back, it looks like, into the Dragon. Dragon actually takes a few hits there, goes down to 1300 HP, but he gets terrified, and then there goes Felix in for his final charge. Oh, he actually gets a hit in. I say got a hit. He got attack animation. I don't think he actually got the hit, unfortunately. And this cannon crew's back somehow? Where did these guys come from? Gonna take a few pot shots at the Dragon, try and finish it off. Nope, they hit army losses. So, very fun game. A big thanks to Big Get It Mule for sending that one in. Yeah, super fun build, I have to say. 124 kills, too, on the Chaos Dragon. Sorcerer Lord, a little bit of a lack of anti-large here from the Dwarf build. I mean, 2 cannons is decent, but cannons really can't consistently kill certain monsters if they're fast, you know, and very mobile, or if they have a lot of HP. The Dragon, Chaos Dragon, is sort of on the borderline of both of those categories, but with good micro here, let's get a mule showed, you can avoid taking damage too much. Although I do think if these Iron Drakes had been Troll Hammers, this build could have turned out much, much better. You know, just been able to deal with the Manticores as they charge down in, deal with the Dragon when it charges down in. As it is, though, I mean, Trolls did okay. I don't know if they necessarily paid for themselves, but they're nice disruption, kind of line breakers. Decent kills on the Chaos Warriors with great weapons as well. 113, 94, not bad at all. 81 and 2 chevrons for this Manticore. But yeah, let's go ahead and just compare. You can't really take the Chaos Dragon on its own as a unit. So we really only can compare mounts, which is a little bit weird because their stats are slightly different. And you have, like I mentioned, the Chaos Lord, who, I mean, this stat line is really okay, but it's not amazing for the cost that you pay. And, I mean, his abilities are all right, but there's not very much support ability here. And, like, these 2 items in particular, Pendant of Slanesh and Filth Mace, they are only recharged in melee, which kind of sucks. Only 5,500 HP is not a ton of HP for a big monster like this. The Sorcerers get even slightly less, but at least the Sorcerers are casters up on the Dragon, and like I mentioned with Lore of Fire, you can synergize very directly with that. I mean, you could have also, of course, take a regular Lord and then a Sorcerer, like supporting on a Manticore. You really want to go all in, but it's not very efficient from what I've found. Sorcerer Lords are definitely much better up on the Dragons. Yeah, Shadows is a really good one. And I would say the Sorcerer Lords, in terms of Dragon mounts, if you were to compare to, say, like the High Elves, Archmage, and Supreme Sorceress, I want to say these guys pay less for their Dragons. Let's see, 1,400, maybe not. Oh yeah, actually, they do pay significantly less for their Dragons, so they end up coming in quite a bit cheaper than something like Supreme Sorceress, which is really nice. If we just compare even, yeah, let's just compare like raw base cost with no abilities, just the mount, 2,300 for the Supreme Sorceress. If we come in here, you know what, maybe it's the same. Or maybe only slightly less. I mean, they do pay less for the mount, so yeah, 2,100. So it is a little bit cheaper, and you can see even slightly worse stats. Interestingly enough, the Supreme Sorceress Lord of Fire even has slightly better stats, but a little bit more expensive. And I want to say that this Chaos Breath is a little bit better because it does fire damage. You don't necessarily have to use, you know, you can just cast a fireball rather than having to use this Flaming Sword of Ruin. But they're pretty comparable. The High Elf Dragon, let's take a look. Yeah, 1750 for this bad boy. And 2200, so they're only slightly more expensive. And basically the same stats, right? More or less. Even maybe slightly worse. So it's interesting. Out of all these, I would say probably just by being cheapest, the Sorcerer Lord by default is the most cost-effective. And likewise, you don't have the same magic selection as these other two, although you do have Lore of Metal, which Dark Elves currently lack. It's a pretty big deal. Manticore mount as well. This is more applicable. I mean, the Eagle's not really super comparable, but one thing about the Supreme Sorceress is she actually retains Murderous Prowess. She does not get it on the Dragon, but on the Manticore she does, which means for the same cost, she's actually like quite a bit better on the Manticore. Slightly worse base stats, but this Murderous Prowess is a huge deal. The leadership, charge bonus, and melee attack especially. In fact, it also restores a little bit of vigor. I mean, it's just super, super helpful. Definitely makes her on the Manticore better, but as for the Dragon mount specifically, I mean, don't get me wrong, Sorcerer Lord on the Manticore is still very good. Just not quite as good, but the Dragon mount, I would say the Sorcerer Lord is probably the best out of these three to take. But let's not even talk about undead dragons. So with that, we'll end. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.